these debates are needed and necessary, and the introduction of facts is necessary, but we cannot gain our country back simply arguing and dueling data with people whom, as we heard, will hear more. They don't even care whether you exist or not. If you can point out their hypocrisy, it doesn't move us toward the urgent matter of protecting and rebuilding a healthy country. David and I are on a traveling the country doing this, and there's a little bit of concern. This is too ivory tower, this is too academic. What we need is action. And what I'd like to say to that, just very simply, we don't simply need, at least we need to pause and look at the lay of the land, look at the map, see, we don't need to act, we need to win. And we need to make a careful study of what we're up to, because there's a huge body of moral and patriotic people, but we need to really get into a common pursuit together. So we need to look at the map, clarity, solidarity. We cannot afford mistakes. Okay, so here's the basic framework of our conversation today. People should not be maltreated, burdened, or suffer. That's the start. People should not be maltreated, burdened, or suffer. Whenever we see such things, we are moved to remedy the situations. The last 4 years, there have been two major reactions to injustice and inequality: the French Revolution and world communism. These are the two. And there's a third one going on presently, which we'll examine in this afternoon's lecture. Two competing forces arise as a reaction and an attempt to regain the rights of people, to be equal and free. You have a divergent option. One side led to the French Revolution, which we heard about, ended up in the Reign of Terror. Another side ended up in the American Revolution, which was very successful to elevate human beings toward the ideals that just naturally resonate in our heart. People should not suffer under inequality. There should be greater equality, greater freedom, greater opportunity. So what were the two differences which led one to a reign of terror and one to the most beautiful country in the history of the world? That's what I'm about to discuss. Those were two historical philosophies. There is now one which we've called wokeism or woke ideology. It's just a nickname. The technical philosophical name of it is postmodern critical theory. That's what in fact it is. It's manifest ideologically as woke ideology, and that's what we're addressing today. Woke ideology, if you were depressed by the first two lectures of David, wait till you hear the afternoon ones. So eat a good meal in case you don't survive. What we are facing today is a philosophy that is the greatest threat to America and contemporary society that we have ever borne. It's the greatest so far. We've reached the end of time. We are at an all hands on deck alarm. This is a life and death junction. We must expose the roots of error and evil and overtake these forces with the same spirit as our American founders. In the Enlightenment, why study the past? The reason why we study the past is for two reasons. One, it provides a clear model. Now that we've seen two in a row, we heard the model, we saw the model. David had a repeated slide up. That is the model. Now we can recognize the exact way that functions in our contemporary society. The second reason why is we see the roots of the error. And as the seed is planted, it grows, matures, and becomes ever more toxic and gains strength and matures. Here's the issue. In the Middle Ages, both clerical and political corruption formed into a unified culture to create inequality and oppression. The use of religion to diminish the lives of peasants, the corruption of the clergy, The reaction to this is the key. Is faith and religion itself the origin of human suffering, oppression, inequality? Is faith and religion itself. Therefore, if you hold that, you will opt for some form of secular ideology in response. Faith, religion, God must be replaced. We saw it replaced by two options, one by reason, one by matter. But if faith and religion and God is what causes human suffering, an other option must be chosen. These are secular philosophies. The other option is that a power and privileged elite is the problem. The corruption of the clergy is the problem. Not religion itself, not faith itself. Corruption in the leadership of the institutions, religious institutions. And then in response to that, Reformation, you have Reformation figures challenge the corrupt religious leadership. And they responded not by the removal of religion, not by less religion, but by more religion. They intensified the investment in faith. This distinction seems small, but it is everything. It's the on-off switch. It's the light. It's binary. It's one or the other. Religion is the problem. It must be removed. Corruption of elite is the problem. It must be reformed. This is the option again and again, and it may seem small, but this single point is everything you need to know in a certain way, to know whether or not the person you're talking to would be content to remove you, by whatever means, by a smear, by imprisonment, by elimination. David used the word elimination or extermination or extinction again and again. When human reason takes the place of God, this is an interesting thing which people may not have noticed, but have you noticed that in the kind of clash of American political culture, the conservatives their main problem is they're stupid. Have you heard this? That you're brainwashed, or you can't think straight, or it's a cult. You ever heard that one? It's a cult. Why? This is because it began with the Enlightenment, that cognition, that intellect, that reason is what distinguishes being human. Lack of cognition or the lack of intellect is what the secular philosophers always regard as the distinguishing and elevating characters. People consistent with the American founders, however, find this to be the case. Virtue, character, and moral law. These are the bases upon which to assess an individual. It's that different. Take, for example, Adam Schiff. And then you think of, what's his name? Henny Youngman. Take Adam Schiff, please. Does anybody consider him unintelligent? Is the critique from conservatives or moral people that he's unintelligent? Not at all. The critique is of his moral character. The problem with Mr. Schiff is that he's a liar. That's the problem. Not that he's unintelligent. And worship of reason, this kind of dividing line in the American culture today between virtue, character, self-discipline, self-improvement, humility, all the qualities that you find in church or from your mom or from your elder brother or sister. The French Revolution removes God and faith, whereas the reformers intensify and expand the possibility of God and faith. This is Gutenberg, the Gutenberg Bible. Then there was the Vulgate, translating the Bible into the common languages of the people. All of this eventually led to the American Revolution. The people that came to America was the result of the response to the very same thing that the French revolutionaries were troubled by. The very same thing. The reformers were troubled by the very same thing. They weren't heartless people that said, oh, God is divine right of kings, just suffer, that's your place. That's not the impulse of spiritual people, of religious people of faith. They couldn't stand it. And so they fought to reform the church. They fought to reform, to make the possibility of the religious experience and the encounter with God and the kind of re-establish morality in the arena of religious life. And this created the Protestant Revolution all throughout Europe and eventually resulted in the travel to America for the purpose of religious freedom, to worship freely in the United States. And this is your option, this is your binary, this is what we're introducing today. Each and every time there is a legitimate reaction to the careless mistreatment of human beings, to the rise of inequality, to the corruption of leaders, whether they be secular or religious. Are they to be removed? Is there to be reform? And when the first impulse is for reform, especially on the spiritual and religious side, this is a guarantee that it will evolve and emerge and establish itself in culture and society that will enhance and intensify and bring about what those two groups, they both want the same thing. David, wasn't it? They were trying to get more equal. Wasn't it equality? Égalité, fraternité, égalité. These are the ideals